Okay, I'm going to just do a quick video on types of claims. And you can see here I have pulled up the online version of Perspectives on Argument. Whether you have online or the hard copy, you can just kind of follow along here. So we're going to go to Chapter 5, Types of Claims. And let's see. So the introduction, you can read that. There are 5 types of claims. And you need to know about these types of claims for 2 purposes. First of all, you need to understand them to be able to write a good argument. So as you develop your argument for Essay 2, you need to think through what type of claim am I going to make, and understanding that will help you better support your claim and avoid any type of logical fallacies and that kind of thing. So, and the second reason you need to know these types of claims is for testing purposes, not just for the quiz you're taking, but test 2 will be over all these chapters on perspectives on argument. So you need to be able to identify the different types of claims, do matching of, look at a certain claim and say, oh, well, that is a claim of cause or that is a claim of policy. So it's pretty important for you to understand these. So let's start with claims of fact. And this type of claim is going to answer the question, did it happen? Is it true? Does it exist? Is it a fact? Obviously. And then your book gives you several examples. And so these are all really good examples. I just wanted to mention as well, this is really the category of conspiracy theorists fall into making a claim of fact. People who would claim that we didn't land on the moon, or that people who would claim that the earth is flat. That is a claim of fact. They are claiming something to be true. And trying to provide all this different support to prove that this thing is indeed factual. So the next time you hear about people making some kind of, believing some kind of conspiracy theory, you'll know that is a claim of fact. And then just make sure you read through the different types of support associated with claims of fact. So you want to be able to identify the claim and also the type of support that goes with it. I'm going to skip over these sample essays. They're not quite as important. Claims of definition have more to do with, obviously how we define something. How is it classified? What does this mean? And the book gives some really good examples. I think this one is good. How do we define pornography, in the context of an art exhibition? Is human nudity, at what point does it become pornography and not art? Or police brutality is another really good example of, the types of definition that our society is struggling with today. Another one might be child abuse. Corporal punishment is spanking, is that child abuse? And so that's another example of a controversial type of definition. Or even I've had students do their essays on defining the Civil War. Was it the War of Northern Aggression? How can that war be defined? What category do we put it in? That kind of thing. So that's what a claim of definition is. Claim of cause. I will say this from the get-go, that I think claims of cause are the most difficult to prove, just because the cause-effect relationship can be very tricky, and it gets difficult to really prove that A happened because of B, or that B is a result of A. So some examples they give you, they talk about legalizing marijuana. It's a pretty relevant cause-effect type of claim. Lack of family values can lead to crime. So again, how do you prove that? How do you prove that there's more crime here because there's fewer family values? And that's way too general. Like, again, for the context of your paper, like in a 3 or 4 page paper, you couldn't prove something like that. Another example would be, people talk about lowering the drinking age. What kind of effects would that have on society? Would we have more DUIs? Would we have less DUIs? Would we have fewer? So again, I think claims of cause, as far as like thinking about your paper, those can be the most difficult to prove just because it's really hard to prove that correlation equals causation. And then claims of value. This has to do with right and wrong. Is it moral? Is it immoral? Is it good? Is it bad? Some of the examples they give you, mercy killing is immoral. So, the idea of euthanasia, is that right or is that wrong? Animal rights, is animal testing right or wrong? That kind of thing. The current, there's a lot of controversy right now over these new abortion laws going into place, and those are all claims of value. Is it right or wrong, to abort an unborn child? And at what point does that unborn child become, a person with a right to life? And so those are all claims of value having to do with right and wrong, moral, immoral, that kind of thing. And then finally, the last type, skip over here, is the claim of policy. Now, a claim of policy has to do with, and you can see here, notice that policy claims focus more on the future than any other type of claims, which deal with past or present. And so a claim of policy is usually going to have the word should in it. So basically, when you are making a claim of policy, you are making a proposal really to solve a problem. So a criminal should be sent to prison rather than a mental institution. So maybe there's a problem with too many people getting away with crime because they claim mental incompetence. And so you're saying, well, here's the solution. Or this one, every person in the United States should have access to health care. Well, so we have, high rates of diabetes and morbid obesity and all these other issues. So we're like, well, what's the solution? The solution is everyone should have health care. Now, I think a claim of policy is actually one of the easiest types of claims to argue. So I always encourage my students, if you're controversial, the topic you choose, if you can word your claim as a claim of policy, that's just the best, most straightforward way to word it, I think. So especially, topics of, say, education, should we or should we not have year-round education? Should we have boys and girls divided into different classrooms? That kind of thing. So I always encourage you, if you can create a claim of policy, I find those to be the most straightforward and then the easiest to support with good reasoning, because it just falls naturally that way. So that is claims of policy. And again, for each of these, make sure that you look at the types of support, and even once you've decided, the type of claim you're using for your essay, looking at like the organization. So like I talked about, claim of policy being a solution to a problem. So the problem solution structure is typical of policy claims. And so that would be a good way to craft your paper. It's like, here is this problem, here is the issue, and here's the solution, and here are the 3 or 4 reasons why this solution will work. So, I just went through this really quickly, so make sure you take the time to look at all the examples, make sure you understand them, make sure that you could do matching of different types of claims and, examples, and you should be good to go on this chapter.